Alright, welcome back everybody. Brought you back with a pretty exciting review, at least for me, because I was looking forward to this movie for a long while, especially this past weekend, having to watch different movies. Really awful one, and a really good one. I went to finally watch Masters of the Universe. Dude, it's just straight off the bat, this movie was so much fun. Let's start with our main character, the He-Man himself. Nicholas plays an absolutely great humanizing version of He-Man. He has his own hero's journey, which is really inspiring given the fact that he starts off as a bit of a coward and then becomes a full-fledged superhero at the very end of the film. His growth was very fun to watch, very by the books, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Kamala Mendes plays Tila as a guide and protector for Adam, and they become pretty good friends at the end, and maybe even more. Not really, no, they don't. Nothing happens there. I do want to give some praise to Idris Elba as well as the Man of Mars, because personally, I'm so used to seeing Idris in villain roles. Very rare that I get to see him in the hero role. We don't talk about Sonic right now, but without a shadow of the doubt, my favorite character and genuine surprise of the film is Jared Leto as Skeletor. Now, with Jared, my issues with him is that he kind of just plays himself in other movies, and he's been kind of a curse on Hollywood. I believe his past couple projects that he starred in were financial bombs, which is why I believe not a lot of people actually knew that Skeletor was played by Jared Leto, a truly monstrous guy who had the cheese from the old show, but because of the cheesiness and just because of how much of a genuine awful person Skeletor is, he comes off as more unpredictable and lends to one of the most memorable villains I've seen of this year. I just love a villain that doesn't need to be compassionate or have an angle. They're just bad to be bad, and it was very entertaining to see him, hands down. I do have to say that the action in the movie, pretty great. I was a little afraid that there was going to be shaky cam, and I genuinely cannot stand shaky cam, but action was great. You could see everything, good camera tracking. Finally, probably my biggest and favorite aspect of the film, the music. Music made you feel like you were in the 80s again from when He-Man first came out. If it wasn't for the music, I don't think the moments that were so impactful for the film would have hit as hard if it was just a generic Marvel soundtrack. The 80s riff guitar did so much for this film. Now let's get into some of the issues that this film had. I do think that the CGI, while it wasn't awful, you could definitely tell that the budget was higher in some places versus others. How the sets were made, but then we'll have the backgrounds be pretty PS3 graphic looks, which I do think it adds to the overall feel and campiness of He-Man, which I think it needed campiness if it was ever gonna live up to what it was in the 80s. And as I mentioned before, there is a hero's journey. There is also other elements that of similar stories that are present in this film, like the rightful prince must return to his homeland so that way he can be the rightful king. Yeah, that's nothing in particular. I do also think that the film was a bit too long. More in the human world. When we get there, I think we spent a little too much time there. Once you first see where He-Man comes from, you just want to go back as soon as possible. I get that it builds up to the story, and it does help with Adam's character, but overall, you could have trimmed some parts here and there, which would have made him more, just less of, let's just get on with it, please. And while I do think the side characters were cool, and genuinely the prosthetics definitely did look, they range from okay to really good, but you could definitely tell which people got more love than the others, which is okay, but at the same time, they're just cool side characters that are going to be selling toys. And while I do think that the overall message was pretty nice of the film, them trying to say more than just be these characters that are just toys fighting each other, there was a attempt to try to make it where they want to break the cycle of violence and potentially just being more than themselves, which was really nice. But when you have something like He-Man where it's very basically good or evil, it does undermine it, especially for me, since I do think that the message is very biblical. So while I do appreciate the attempt, I don't think it really lands as well as they wanted to. But honestly, if you don't think about that too much, this movie's just a great time, man. This was a very fun watch, genuine moments of heart that I really appreciated, that helped to alleviate some of the Marvel jokes that were in the film, but it's not that serious. And again, you can think whatever you think is subjectively funny to you. But overall, I was looking forward to Masters of the Universe, and I can honestly say I was not disappointed. I will give this 7.5 out of 10. Alright, you made it to the end. Thank you all so much for watching, and I've been getting more comfortable with the editing here. Let me know what you guys think. I'm just trying to incorporate more of my original pictures that I have, and also just have more fun with it, because so far the editing process has been more fun for me as it's been going on. But again, hope you all have a blessed day. Thank you for watching.